Hi everybody, welcome to the Wild Ginger Running YouTube channel, live broadcast and podcast. Today we are speaking to the founder of Run Like A Haggis, female-led navigation courses in County Durham, Fran Blackett. So welcome Fran, how are you doing today?
Yeah, hi Claire, thanks so much for having me on. Yeah, great today.
Awesome.
Great Wednesday so far.
Brilliant. I can see that you're waiting there with all the little haggises behind you, and we're going to find out what a haggis is in just a second. Lots of questions for you, including top tips to get us inspired to start map reading or just dusting off our rusty old navigation skills. But first, a quick shout out to the sponsors of the broadcast and the podcast, NAC Sports Nutrition. So I'm still recovering from bronchitis over the spring and summer, and I'm focusing on my strength work instead of ultra running right now. So I've been finding their new gels really useful to give me the energy that I need for these sessions. My favourite is the chocolate one, but it also has caffeine in, so that's a recipe for disaster sometimes. I'm very sensitive to caffeine, so I've also been using the maple syrup one, which is very nice and caffeine free. So if you want to try any NAC products plus their delicious energy bars, waffles, energy and recovery powders, use code WILDGINGERRUNNING for 15% off at uk.nac.com. So I can see people are coming to the live chat. Hi to Deush and hi Hannah, great to see you. If you're on the live, then just shout hi to us. So Fran, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really great to have you here, and congratulations on setting up Run Like A Haggis with your female-led navigation courses. But before we just dive into what kind of courses you offer and what kind of level of navigation you're covering, firstly, I think it's important that we ask you about the company name. Apart from a well-loved Scottish ball of offal, what exactly is a haggis?
Absolutely, it's a perfect way to start, and it's often the first question on my navigation courses. So a haggis, small furry creature, native to Scotland, probably say yay big, brown, furry, known particularly for running around and around and around hills, therefore making one leg slightly shorter than the other. So how does that then become Run Like A Haggis? Well, my very first navigation event that I took part in solo, without my husband as my partner, was back in 2014. It was the Lake District Mountain Trial, and it started in Patterdale and went up on the Helvellyn Range. The cloud level was up and down, and there was one point where I was on Rays or one of those other kind of grassy round hills, and I was running around that hill like a haggis. I kept coming past this path, and I was thinking to myself, I've been here before. And so that just kind of stuck, and like we're talking to people, or I'd just joke about running around like a haggis. And so then when kind of the seed of this kind of idea for setting up these courses was born, I was just joking, saying, I'm going to call it Run Like A Haggis. And then it stuck, really. I couldn't think past that. So yeah, I just went with it. So, well, I mean, really it should be Don't Run Like A Haggis.
Yeah, well, it's a great name.
Kind of lose the ring. So it's kind of, it's quite nice. It's kind of rooted then in my sort of the beginning of my navigation journey.
Yeah, so it's maybe for people who are running like haggises at the moment, and you're going to guide them along the way. Awesome. So in case anyone had not got from that, haggises are a mythical creature. I've spoilt it there now. We should have maybe just kept that going. But they always get taught to you in geography at school, so you might have come across them before anyway. And they often use them to talk about contour lines, don't they? Because their legs one higher than the other, so you go round the hill and they can go around the hill fine, but then when the farmer wants to round them up, they just chase them the other way and they all just fall off and roll down the hill. So so hopefully you didn't fall off and roll down the hill when you were running round Rays. But just so you decided to set up Run Like a Haggis. What courses do you run on there? Are there a few, or is there just the one?
So at the moment I've got 3. So I've got our beginner navigation course. So for people that have never picked up a map before, never seen a compass before. Also have people coming along that have done a bit, but it was a while ago and they can't remember, and they just want to brush up their skills and kind of get their confidence back, really. And some other people, just want a bit of a confidence boost to kind of get back out there. And then we've got an intermediate course, so that is kind of then developing those skills. So for people that are happy orientating your map, you can take a bearing, but you want to kind of develop some of the more complex skills. And then also we do a little bit of sort of courses more off-path. So more off-path navigation, working towards, so if people are thinking about a mountain marathon or a navigation event, then it's kind of the afternoon session of that intermediate course is perfect. And then I also do a night navigation course, which is a bit shorter, but and hasn't been running obviously over the summer. The joy of the light nights is that it hasn't been dark enough. So they're starting up again next month.
Awesome. Oh, they sound really good. And you sound really enthusiastic about navigation. It's something that some people are really intimidated by. What do you personally like best about navigation yourself?
I think, so it's got a few different strands. I think at its core, like what gets me most excited about it is like the freedom and the independence that it gives me. Like I can just think, I want to go for 4 or 5 hours in the mountains. Where am I going to go? And I just love opening up the map and thinking, I fancy starting here, and then plotting that route on the map, and then being able to go and just do that, like without having to rely on anybody else. Or I'm my husband sometimes calls me a solitary bear. I love just like 4 or 5 hours in the mountains by myself, can just sort my head right out. I just love it. And just being able to do that is just brilliant. And I find when I'm navigating with map and compass, it also brings me really in tune with where I am, because you're looking and you're thinking what's coming up next. You might notice a waterfall or like some like feature that, if you were just using your breadcrumb trail on your watch, then you often spend so much time kind of looking down at it, and then you might miss other things. So that's there's those strands. And then there's obviously the safety aspect of knowing that I'm going out there into that mountain environment, but I'm doing that safely, because I'm always going to know where I am. I'm always going to be able to like find an escape route if I get injured or kind of like cold and wet, or haven't kind of taken the right layers. Then I'm always going to be able to kind of look at that map and get myself off there. So I think those are kind of my main strands, I think. Just love it.
Yeah, it does. I think a lot of people will relate to wanting to get away for 4 or 5 hours into the mountains just to clear their head. I think that's why a lot of people do this type of running. And so why do you think navigation is so important? I mean, it's important to you, but why is it important for other people?
I think it comes down to the mountain craft and the mountain safety, and being able to look after yourself in the mountains. And if you're not able to know where you are, then then very quickly things can unravel and get pretty serious pretty quickly. So I think I'm not at all anti GPS or anti kind of using all of the technology that we've got. And I will use things like the OS app it's just brilliant for quickly plotting a route and knowing how far it is and how much elevation, and all of that's really, really handy and really useful. But you can't rely on it 100%. That's the issue. You lose signal, or it hasn't downloaded properly, or your phone runs out of battery, or your watch suddenly like freezes or resets. And all of a sudden then, if you're in a vulnerable position, then if you're purely relying on that technology, then you're
kind of screwed.
But your map and compass is never going to run out of battery. It's never going to. I've had my map blow out of my hand before. I mean, that
at least you can chase after it, though, can't you?
Yeah, I've seen chasing my map. No.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just, if you want to go out into those environments, I just think having a grasp of navigation with map and compass is just so important.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it's a really good basic skill for the entire population to have, like not just runners, but here we are talking about trail and ultra runners. So in your experience, why do you think that people are intimidated by navigation in sort of the running sphere?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Yeah, a lot of for our running club, I lead a women's night on a Tuesday night, and a lot of people that was a lot to do with kind of setting the seed of setting this up, because they'd come along and they'd do our sessions. You should do a fell race, and they'd say, I couldn't do a fell race, I can't navigate. I was like, well, like, you could learn to navigate. Oh no, I couldn't navigate like you. And it's like, oh no, but there was a point when I couldn't. Like, of course you can. And there is, like this witchcraft almost, like, oh, I couldn't do that, or kind of how to learn it. And there's always these magical moments on my beginner course, and people take a bearing for the first time, and then they line their compass up and it's pointing in the direction. It's like, oh,
that's how it works. Yeah.
And it's just, I just love it. I love it every single time. That never gets old. And so I don't know what the barrier is. Maybe it's like perceptions of old geography lessons, or, and I'm not anti-GPS and I'm not anti-men either, but I think often it can, maybe there's a stereotype perhaps of an older gentleman kind of teaching people how to read a map. And I don't know if it's a lot of women that come on my course are like, oh, I go walking with my husband, but he does the navigation and he's tried to teach me, but we've always just ended up arguing. So I don't know. I'm an ex-primary school teacher, so I don't know that kind of teaching experience, or being able to break it down into small steps and explain it in a way that people can understand. But I think, if you've never kind of looked at a map and interpreted it before, it can be quite intimidating. There's all the symbols and the colours, and, well, what does it mean, and what are these lines, and there's a lot to unpack there from the map in order to be able to use it. So I think, big picture, it can almost seem too much.
Overwhelming. I get that, because I've known friends that, they think the M6, because it's blue, and you've said, oh, blue things are usually a river, they're like, oh, that's a river, and it's the M6, and it's like, oh dear. And like, and genuinely they just don't know what it means. And I think if you've been brought up map reading, it's really difficult to realise that there's actually loads to learn right from a beginner level. So I'm going to ask you, this might be a bit of a difficult question, but can you put into words why you think navigation is easier than most people think it is?
Oh gosh, yeah. I think it's about like breaking it down into kind of the smaller steps. And so the beginner course just starts right at the beginning, like this is a map, this is what the different colours mean,
This
and
is
this
the
is what the different
M6.
line means.
This is a river.
Yeah. And then, yeah, like we don't touch a compass for ages. It's kind of getting people to step into the map and then relate what's on the map to what they can see. Because that's what you need to be doing, is kind of matching. It's matching this kind of paper flat version to what's around you, and gradually then kind of piecing that together. And the more you do that, then the more it makes sense. And it's like, oh, that house over there is this house here, and that stream is coming close, and that's there, and kind of building that in, and just gradually building all of the layers of kind of steps that you would use.
All the other things. I think a lot of people get put off by the compass, don't they? And in early stages of navigation in good weather, you don't even need it to orientate the map. You can just turn the map around based on all the features that you see around you. So I think that's not using the compass for the first half of the course just sounds like a really good idea. I think that compass with all the numbers round and the twizzly bezel and all the different arrows, and half of it you don't need anyway, you just ignore half of it. But I think that really puts people off, and I think like that tech and that sort of like army, like, oh, it's an army thing, like I think it might put people off. So yeah, so it is easier than we think if we just break it down. And so as you've been doing these courses, they sound absolutely fantastic, and they're really reasonable price point. Everybody just sign up now before just before any prices have to go up again with the world that we're living in at the moment. So when you've been teaching people, what's the most common navigation mistake or that you see people doing that are just complete beginners, or even more intermediate people?
So a lot of the time it's not. So yeah, you kind of talked about orientating the map or turning the map around to the direction that you're in. So a lot of the time then people making mistakes with that. So it's just paying attention to the detail and then being able to step into it. That would definitely be.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they see the words on the map and they're like, oh, I like to read the words and that I should hold it that way up. But sometimes you can be holding it 180 degrees the whole other way just to kind of go in the right direction. So yeah, is that something that people struggle with? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Taking bearings, people often, so on the base plate, the flat bit of your compass, that arrow there, you need that pointing in the direction you'd like to go in. So often we'll have people in there stood 180 degrees out. So it's just kind of that sequence of steps. Then they're like, oh yeah, no, I've forgotten that step there. So
so orientation in the first place is one of the common mistakes. Okay. And so we had a really nice question. I hope this is the right one. Yes, from Tina Benton, one of the Wild Ginger Running patrons. She says, any recommendations for a course that total beginners can do for map reading?
Well, Tina,
come to the right place.
I know just the course. So my beginner courses are absolutely suitable for complete beginners. So yeah. If you're not local to County Durham, then
book a holiday.
Book on, have a weekend up here. We've got cathedral, there's castle, we've got Hampstead Forest, which you can spend hours and hours exploring. It's huge. So yeah, it'd be great to see you on a course, Tina. That would be fab.
Yeah, so people could come, couldn't they? Like do the course for the day, then they could stay the night somewhere, and then they could go and try and use those newfound navigation skills in Hampsterley Forest.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Yeah, so for a total beginner, like someone like Tina, where would they start? Like what skill would you have them learn first? I suppose you've talked about orientating the map as the first ever skill. Is that where you'd start? Yeah, and then what would you do?
So then, yeah, have the map in your hand. Maybe the second thing that we often do is I think people imagine when I say, oh yeah, so I always kind of run or walk with the map in my hand, and I think they imagine me with it like fully open and running along like some massive sail. So yeah, so folding the map, kind of, I'm locating yourself on the map, and then anticipating the features. So having a look at the map, thinking I'm going from here to the bridge maybe, along a footpath. Have a look at what you'd be expecting to pass as you go along there. So having a look at the map, interpreting the symbols that are there and thinking, okay, so I'm going to start off along a road. I'm expecting to see a car park on my left. Then we'll think, oh, what would I be expecting to see next? Or maybe a path, or maybe the river is going to come close to you, or it could be anything. And once you've had a look at the map and you've thought that, then as you set off, kind of mentally you've got a little checklist. Oh, there's the car park. Brilliant. I'm on track. Oh, there's that path that I thought was coming. Oh, here, the river's coming. It's just, it reassures you, but also it means that if you don't see those things, then alarm bells should be going off. And
yeah,
you can think, oh,
I'm too late.
Yeah, and just catching yourself before you're completely lost, then, because you knew where you were, so then you're not going to be too far away, but maybe you've missed a junction, or, you know, like sometimes paths branch off, don't they? But it doesn't quite look like a junction, so then you've ended up on the wrong one. So I think that's a really good skill to be able to practice as well. And even in places that are familiar, people often say, oh, I'm going to go and practice. Like, is it worth doing somewhere that I know? And it definitely is, because you'll notice things that you didn't even notice before if you go out there with your map. And even just like a fence corner, or like a shed or an outbuilding, or just like these little details that just to tick off as you go along.
Yeah, and I suppose doing that locally can show you what is on the map and what sort of doesn't get mentioned on the map, because there's like various things that do and don't get on there. So that could be a useful exercise as well. Just coming back to the compass, we've got a live question from Chris Williams, and also a question from one of my patrons as well. He says, is there any compass you would recommend for beginners? And I think that Mike Haler said that. Best compass. I think compass for runners is a good idea. Like maybe one of those thumb compasses, maybe.
So orienteers use a thumb compass a lot. I tried one and I just didn't get on with it at all. So I think, yeah, it can depend for a beginner. So brand wise, Silver, SILVH, just trying to spell it. I've got one here. I thought, oh, I wonder if people will ask. So this is my compass here, and it's just one of, I don't know, is that, can you see that?
That's fine, yeah.
One of the cheaper ones, and they've all got different names. I'm not very good at remembering kind of specific names.
Ranger or something like
maybe
that.
Yeah. So it's got this shorter base plate on it, so it doesn't have the magnifying glass. So there's a similar model, but it's slightly longer and it's got the magnifying glass.
Okay.
People do find that magnifying glass useful if your vision isn't so good, if you wear glasses, or it can be quite useful for kind of seeing that small detail. I just have this slightly shorter one because it's a little bit handier, and when I do my navigation events, when we do mountain marathons, I often do those with my husband, who gets meticulous about weighing everything. So the smaller compass saves a few grams.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah, but it's got everything on it that you need to do, and I would recommend the silver compasses because this is how I don't even remember how old now, 5 or 6 years old probably, and it gets bashed about, and it's surviving.
Yeah,
I think
they're really good.
Yeah, you can get really cheap ones on Amazon.
Yeah.
And
You
they
can get
do
silver
work.
ones on Amazon as well.
Yeah. The needles can take longer to settle, and they don't last as well. I think they can get like holes, and once you've got a bubble inside, then your needles can start going haywire. So it is worth paying a little bit more for a better quality one that's going to last a bit longer.
Yeah,
I would say. And it's up to you whether you have the bit with the magnifying glass or not. I guess it depends how sort of weight conscious you are, and
yeah.
you're going to need a magnifying glass for looking at the detail.
Oh, I've just gone onto Amazon to have a look at silver compasses, and there's one called the Startup 123, which is from a couple of years ago. It's like a couple of years old now, but it's just a basic compass like the one you've just shown, and it's going for about 10 quid on Amazon. So I'll put a link to that in the YouTube description and the podcast show notes, so everybody can get themselves the best compass. But yeah, I know what you mean. I've used those thumb compasses before, and you have to really make sure that you're holding it right, so that like you're not on an angle, so that it's spinning round. And it's something about the lack of numbers on one of those compasses as well that just freaks me out, because I am used to the numbers all being around the side. So I'll put that in the whatchamacallit in the film description below. And then somebody else says, same person, Chris, again, lots of questions from Chris about compasses. Will compasses freeze if they're really cold out in the mountains? I've not even thought about that before. That is a good question. I've never had one freeze on me. They must have antifreeze in the fluid that they use. Do you know anything about that, Fran? I've never even thought about that.
So yeah, it's not water. It's not water that's inside there. I was just frantically trying to think what it is. Is it some kind of oil? So I guess maybe it's got a freezing point below 0.
Yeah.
I have had it out in sub-zero conditions, and yeah, it has never frozen. Yeah. That's a great question.
It is a great question.
But I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Apart from to say my compass has never frozen.
Yeah. It's a great question, but rest assured, Chris, your compass is not going to freeze. It's absolutely fine, and you can use it in all weathers. Cool. Okay, I've put the link to that in the film description below, so that's great. So that's complete beginners, and you've given us some really good tips on how they should start and orientating the map and ticking off features. That's a really solid beginner basis. What motivation would you give to like a lapsed navigator like myself? Like I have learned to navigate. I can navigate, but I'm just out of practice. What motivation would you give to me to improve my rusty navigation skills?
In terms of like reasons why, or like top tips to
maybe some top tips for me to go out and practice, maybe.
Yeah, so I think once you've got the basics, I would maybe set yourself some challenges perhaps, or have a look at a map and kind of circle yourself some like mini checkpoints,
like orienteering points.
I really enjoy that, and I think me and my husband was so fun. he has done that before for me.
That's cool. That's a cute couples thing, isn't it? He could do it first and leave little clues for you, or like leave little romantic gifts, like little mini eggs. Tell him that.
Map with circles, I mean. But it's really good motivation, because it can be hard to, if you plot your route, then you're generally going to stay on paths or kind of, it's harder to then challenge yourself. But if you've kind of created your own map, or just circled some sheepfolds maybe, or some stream junctions, or like a random walk corner that's really going to kind of challenge your navigation a little bit more, and get you practicing those skills. You're taking your bearing, and things like catching features, like how would you know that you'd gone too far. So once you get to more of your off-path navigation, you want to think about things like attack points. So if you're trying to get to a sheepfold, say, they can just be on the side of a hillside. So you need to think, well, how am I going to get to that? So from a definite feature, what's my definite feature going to be, to then aim to catch that? So to practice those trickier navigation, finer, it's like the finer navigation once you get to going off path. So I think, either get your friend, get a family member to plot you a little course, and go and do it just for fun.
That sounds really good, actually. I'd not thought about that. I just thought about planning a route, but if you're finding little features that are not necessarily on the path, then that sounds brilliant. I suppose that's a really cheap way of remotivating yourself and improving your navigation, because that's the kind of thing that an event would do for you, isn't it? Which brings me on to events, because you were saying that you think the number of navigation events in the calendar these days is reducing. Why do you think that is? And what are we going to do about it?
It's tricky, isn't it? Because they used to. So mountain marathons are like my favorite events. So they're 2 days, navigating, self-supported, with an overnight camp. And now there's the Saunders Lakeland Mountain Marathon. It's in July, and then there's the Mountain Marathon at the end of October. So there's just the two in the year, and I wonder.
There's only 2 left now. There used to be. There's only 2 left. That's surprising. I didn't realise that. There used to be quite a few, didn't there? Like about 10 or so. Like the Lamb and the Highlander, and the Lamb's gone for it. Yeah, I done the Lamb once. That was brilliant. Really, really good events. The only downside about those events is sleeping in a tiny tent with a sweaty partner and cooking. Someone's always got bacon, haven't they? Someone's always carried in bacon, and there you are eating noodles for breakfast. It's just rude. It shouldn't be allowed. But those events are brilliant.
So but I think they're probably they're a big commitment in terms of the equipment that you need. You need the tent, you need the mat, you need the sleeping bag, and then you want that to be lightweight. So then it's quite specialist, I suppose.
Yeah, it is.
And then perhaps it's the navigation elements. I don't know, with kind of the popularity and boom of trail runs and ultra runs, and I don't know.
It hasn't sort of transferred, has it?
It seems to have gone, in that direction, and away from, the more self-sufficient navigation events. But I know events like the Saunders Lakeland Mountain Marathon, they've been putting a lot of effort into kind of encouraging young people to come along, and there's parent-child classes, which are brilliant. Cool. Can't wait till my boys are old enough to drag them, around.
How old are they?
They'll be like leaving me for dust.
Yeah. How old are they now?
So they're only 6 and nearly 8.
Okay. So. And what age are you allowed to take them?
They've got to be 14.
Okay, so a little bit of time yet. Yeah.
A little bit of time yet.
So, but they'll probably be hairing off into the distance, and you'll be plodding along but going in the right direction. They'll probably be like, you'll be like, right, go up that re-entrance, see what's up there. Is it up there? I'll be doing laps.
Definitely. And the sort of done a lot encouraging younger entrants, like this discounted entry and things, and so this year there seem to be a lot more people there. I don't know what the exact numbers were, but that's brilliant. And the Arm is always really popular as well. So
Yeah, and they've got the On Light as well now, haven't they? It's like a festival where people can learn, and they've got a base camp. Instead of having to carry everything around with you, you camp in any old tent with any old sleeping bag or a caravan or something, and you go off each day. And that seems like a good way to bring in beginners as well.
Definitely, that's been a really good event the last 2 years. Yeah, you can even stay off. You don't have to stay on the camp. You can stay in Grasmere or
in a hotel. Do you know what I think? I think that nowadays, I think people want to branch out. I think we need someone to put on a luxury mountain marathon. So it's still the mountain marathon, but at the end of the night, you're in a lovely 4-star hotel, like with a hot bath. I think that would appeal to a lot of people these days. It sounds expensive. It's a cop out. So what do you think about being allowed GPS watches in ultras and multi-day events now? Because I think that's made a lot of them much more accessible, but at the same time, it's kind of the death of mountain marathons, isn't it? What are your views on GPS watches?
Yeah, it's controversial, isn't it? Well, is it controversial? It was quite controversial. So fell running and trail running, and the distinction between the two. And the Fell Running Association, the FRA, maybe 10 years ago or something like that, then as kind of GPS watches became more prevalent and accessible and more people were having them, then the FRA then banned the use of GPS watches for navigation in fell races, which I was 100% behind. I think that is absolutely right, because the part of the ethos of fell running is the route choice and getting from checkpoint 1 to checkpoint 2, and whichever way you want, or that was part of the skill of it, was being able to choose the line and pick the line, and I think
follow the right people.
Or follow the right people or the wrong people. That's all part of it, wasn't it? And then at the finish, to have that discussion and kind of debrief and throw your hands up and be like, oh, that was rubbish, I went completely the wrong way, or which way did you go? And just all those discussions that happen at the end of the race, I think, are just a brilliant part of it. And I guess a distinction then with the trail running is that the course is either marked or you're allowed your GPS. And I think that's okay if it's clear and people understand that's the distinction and that's what you want to do, or that makes that distance then accessible to you, then I think that's okay. Makes me a bit sad, I think, when I see, I don't know, I don't want to be like, oh, it's okay but not in the mountains, but it does make me sad when I see lots of flags kind of posted on a mountain route, because for me, so much of the enjoyment comes from doing it myself. I kind of feel like people are maybe missing out on kind of part of the joy of it, and
I think for me it's more of the safety. I mean, what do you do if those flags have blown away or moved, or if you lose your way in the mist and you don't have a map with you and you just got your watch? I mean, I think I'm a bit biased because I don't really know how my watch works, and I don't really understand. There's a thin line in the middle of the screen with an arrow. What on earth is that? It's just rubbish. I tried to use it on the Arc of Attrition, and so I hadn't really practiced it, but I just didn't understand it, and I had to get the OS Maps app out and use the proper map, because I was just like, well, I understand this, and this, obviously that's there, and let's go this way. It's just I just don't understand a line on a watch, so I need to do some more research into that and using a GPS watch. But I just feel like everybody should try to have a little bit of a basic sense of navigation at least, just because it's good to have the background of it all, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it feels risky. From a race organizer's point of view, I organize a small fell race just for our running club, and it's always just so nerve-wracking. Like, there's always a bit of me that's like, I'm not relaxing until everyone's come back. And, and I don't. Yeah, there's just so much that could go wrong with just a GPS watch.
Yeah. It's like fine to rely on them, but like the Cape Wrath Ultra, when I did that, you absolutely had to carry the map as well. Like, okay, so maybe some people couldn't read it, but you had to carry it. Oh, and Trevor Mackey has got a comment on that. He says, the GPS watch is only as good as the user's knowledge. Well, that's zero knowledge for me. The map data it uses is still king. Yes, so that is good data, but yeah, I'm not very good at using it. Chris Williams says, oh, this is about the compass. The compass is filled with mineral oil. He went on the internet and found out. So thank you.
Oh, amazing! Great.
Mineral oil. Okay, so that's not like the oil that we use for a salad dressing, I'm guessing. And so yes, basically we think every off-road runner should have some basic navigation skills. That's my feeling anyway. So with that in mind, like, what navigation events do you reckon would be good for a beginner? Like, should they go to a fell race, or like should they start there, or like maybe that festival in the summer? Like, what do you recommend? Once people have gone on your courses, what do you reckon they should aim for in terms of an event? Let's do complete beginners first, and then some more intermediate ones after that.
So this is a great question, because it's hard. There's quite a big jump, or there has been. People have come on a beginner course and then they've finished it and they're really motivated and they're excited, and I've chatted on about mountain marathons and longer navigation events, and they're like, okay, so like where could I get started? And then making a leap then to a day in the Lake District, or a weekend in the Lake District, that's almost like too big of a jump. So my first one is at the end of the month, so I haven't held one yet, but I'm hoping it'll be a great success. I'm starting to hold some navigation events as part of Run Like a Haggis. Just much smaller scale. There's an app called MapRun, and orienteers have been using this for quite a while as training runs or for competitions as well. So the app's free, and then I do lots of work plotting checkpoints on a map and then linking that to MapRun. And the idea is they're going to be, people can choose like 1 hour, an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then you just come along and you get your map, and you've got an hour, and then you need to go to as many checkpoints that are marked on the map as you can. And every one you get to, then you get 20 points. And that all just gets recorded on your phone as you go around, and then you come back to the finish, and you get some cake and a cup of tea, and you get to kind of chat and compare which controls you've been to. And I'm hoping that they'll be like a nice little stepping stone to kind of the process of getting a map that you've never seen before.
Is it a printed map then?
So it'll be a printed A4 map on waterproof paper, because it's the northeast and it's autumn now. So yeah, we're expecting rain, and so then you'll go around, and so there won't be flags at the checkpoints, which is slightly different from maybe orienteering. You'd have your orienteering flag, so you'll just have to you'll either hear your phone buzz, or you can check it, or you can just be confident that you're at that checkpoint.
So you'll go to where you think it is, and it'll be like bing. That sounds harder. Because when I used to do orienteering at school, like, you'd notice all the bright orange of the flag would be there, and you could see it sometimes.
Yeah, and there's so that's going to be sort of in my local area, County Durham, for now. People that live around the Manchester area, similar events are happening there. They're called Spunch events, with a similar, actually, I didn't steal his idea, but I chatted with Andy Thornton, who's organising those events, and yeah, kind of talked about how he was doing it, and then launching something similar up here in the northeast. So I know he's got grand plans for those events, and they're proving really popular. So that's if you kind of live around the Manchester area. Yeah. Obviously, mine are going to be County Durham. Like orienteering clubs can feel intimidating to people as well. But I guess if you aren't lucky enough to live in one of those locations, then I would check out your local orienteering club. They often have like fixed permanent courses as well. One lady I had came on a course. She lived in York and she was wanting to go out with her daughter and practice. So I just had a little search for her kind of courses or local clubs to her, and there was loads. I found this orienteering club in York, and there was loads of fixed courses just in local parks, and you could download the map from the website and go and just have a go at it. I think that was using MapRun as well. So yeah, if you fancy having a go, it doesn't necessarily have to be or turning up at an orienteering training night. Have a look and see for fixed courses and things you can just go and do in your own time.
Yeah, oh, that's brilliant. I feel like if we just tell everybody about those smaller events, and more of those smaller events just pop up throughout the country, we'll sort of feed a next generation of mountain marathoners. It's kind of like there's been a gap in the knowledge, and it needs plugging again.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so you've got an impressive list of navigation events that you've done as well, including many mountain marathons. Some of them aren't in existence anymore. Can you say which one was your absolute favourite, or is there any event that's like gone now that you would revive in a heartbeat?
Oh gosh, I would beg Shane Ollie to revive the Dark Mountain.
Really?
Yeah.
That looks like hell to me. I remember when he created that and I was like, what? It's basically, oh, you tell us what it is. You've done it. I just reported on it.
So Shane Ollie of Oreo Events used to organise the Rock as well, the end of September, which was a mountain marathon. So the Dark Mountains took place in January, and as the name suggests, it took place in the dark. So yeah, it wasn't a full weekend. You didn't camp out, but you started on the Saturday evening, I think, as soon as it got dark, and then your course ran from that. So some of the longer courses, you'd then see sunrise and you'd be running through the next day. So like same concept as a mountain marathon, and you had to carry all of your tent and everything, and all of your equipment should you need to kind of hunker down and camp out overnight. But yeah, given your map. So yeah, it's kind of the concept of a mountain marathon is you know the area before you start. You don't get your map until your time has started. So you dip, your time starts, and then you get handed a map that's got your checkpoints on that you need to go and visit. So I did do, it was 2020. So I had my older boy was born in 2016, and I planned to do the January 2016 Dark Mountains with my brother, but then fell pregnant. And then we had our second in 2018. But I was determined to do, I really, really wanted, I just had this bee in my bonnet about doing the Dark Mountains. It just seemed such a ridiculous idea. And yeah, those events kind of always like appeal to me for some reason. Like the more ridiculous, the more exciting it sounds. So yeah, so we did. So I wasn't very fit when we did it. It was January 2020, but we got around the short course, and it was just like, yeah, there's something magical about running at night and being in the mountains at night, and just like how surreal it is, and just thinking, wow, it's 11 o'clock on a Saturday night and we're like tramping through this bog, or it's brilliant. You just think about everyone like sat in the pub or coming out of the cinema or like cozy in their living rooms at home, and it just feels dead exciting that you're on the top of a mountain, kind of, just running around. I mean, I can imagine that it was an absolute nightmare to organise. So.
Yeah, it's...
I can appreciate that, but just from a participant's point of view, I always remember this story. Jim Mann was running one of them with, I think it was Nick Barber, and he talks about it was snowing, or there was a lot of snow on the ground.
Wow.
And he like tells this story of the two of them like digging. They'd lost their way. They weren't entirely sure where they were on the map. And they talk about like digging down through the snow to see whether they were on a road or not.
Oh,
like,
wow.
just like to see whether they were on a track.
Oh, wow.
And somehow that made me want to do it. But
yeah, wow. When you were talking about all the people cozy in the pub, I was thinking, yeah, that'll be me. Yeah, cozy in the pub. That sounds lovely. Well, that sounds brilliant. So maybe, you know, with your night navigation courses, you can revive a little bit of the spirit of Dark Mountains as you go.
Okay.
Yeah, and then maybe, you know, the events that you're running, maybe there'll be like a mini Dark Mountains little franchise going on. Speak to Shane, get a bit of a franchise going on. So that's really cool to know. Yeah, you've got all the experience there, and I'm sure everybody is very keen now to book one of your courses or do one of your events. We've just got some quick fire questions, and then we'll thank the sponsors, and then we'll just get your details for how we book courses with you and how to find out more. So we've got quick fire questions. Okay, morning run or evening run?
Morning.
Cool. Wine or beer after a challenge?
Beer.
Yeah. Wild camp or bunkhouse?
Wild camp.
Poles or would you call them cheating sticks?
Poles. Because I've used them, so I'd be like, I've seen a picture of you using them.
Yeah, so fell runners used to call them cheat sticks, didn't they? Until they became very useful. This is a really easy question. Map and compass or GPS watch?
Oh, map and compass.
Easy. Taylor Swift or Slipknot?
Oh, Taylor Swift.
Cool. Cats or dogs? Or should I have said haggises or dogs? Okay, so definitely dogs, definitely haggises. And finally, glass half full or glass half empty?
Half full.
Awesome, cool. And Andrea on the live chat, if anybody else wants to comment, then that's great. But Andrea says, getting Fran on was really good.
Oh.
Thank you, Andrea. And glad you were enjoying the live broadcast. So before we go, a quick thank you to NAC Sports Nutrition. You'll definitely need some of their gels, bars, waffles and drink powders for one of Fran's navigation events or one of her courses. So use code WildGingerRunning for 15% off at uk.nac.com. So how can people find out more about your navigation courses, Fran? Let us know how we can follow you.
So booking is on my website, so just www.runlikeahaggis.com. I'm on Instagram, just Run Like A Haggis, and Facebook page is also Run Like A Haggis. So yeah, all details and links are on there.
Oh, awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, Fran. Really, really appreciate your time today. It has been really lovely chatting with you. And today thinks that it's been interesting too. So thanks, Fran. Very interesting. So yeah, it's been brilliant chatting with you. I hope this episode inspires lots of trail and ultra runners to book one of your navigation courses and sign up to one of your navigation events as well. So thank you very much, Fran.
No, thanks so much, Claire. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, goodbye, everybody, and good luck in your navigation.